All right, we are live back on my channel, True Crime with Tim Solberg. I'm here with my cousin, little known fact. We are the same age, we're about 2 weeks apart. But this is Dallas, and I'm going to let her introduce her channel. Go ahead, Dallas.
Hi everyone, I'm Dallas, and my channel is just another channel, True Crime Documentaries, that was started this year in January. It was doing pretty good, excited to be here. So yeah, happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Um, what are we talking about today, Dallas? I'm kind of excited for this one, not because of what happened, but because I'm so familiar with the case. What is the case we're going to hit?
Right, so we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger. It is the quadruple murder that happened in Idaho of the four students that were murdered in their rental apartment on the
Yeah.
campus. So there's been some updates this week with his trial. And we're going to get right into that, all that stuff. So super excited.
So, sorry, I was just getting a text message. I gotta bring up the chat. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So this case for me was a wild case. This is really one of the cases that I first did when I started this channel. And if you know my history, I've done just about 120 videos or so, like full length videos. I've got a lot of shorts and stuff going on as well. But this case was so captivating because there was not a suspect for a long time. Now, if you go back and listen to what the police are saying, right, they knew who the suspect was, but they had to get some information on him first, right? And they end up arresting him in Pennsylvania at his dad's house. And it's so odd the way that they tracked him down. So I just took a DNA test, right? I did 23andMe. And by doing that, if I've ever murdered somebody before, they can say, hey, right? But here's the crazy part. Let's say Zane goes out and kills somebody when he gets older. Not that my kid's ever going to kill somebody. What's going to happen is he's actually going to be in the database because of me. So what they'll be able to identify is that it's the father of the person's DNA, right? So that's what you do when you do like 23andMe and Ancestry.com.
Right.
So that to me was absolutely crazy. That's what hooked me on it. And then on top of that, when we were looking at the four people, right, that ended up passing away, I honestly thought that was an inside job, like by one of their friends, and it ended up not being, right? It really started with like, well, the way the story goes is it was Maddie Mogan that was essentially getting stalked by Bryan Kohberger. But I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you learn about the case so far? And then we'll go into more details. But what's interesting to you about the case?
Well, it was obviously like just how high profile it was. It was unfortunate that it took them so long to find somebody because obviously with day and age, you thought it would be a little quicker than the 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like being a little bit of a skeptic because I watched some like YouTubes and then like the news, and now I don't know. So I'm like one person was saying he was the DoorDash delivery.
Yeah.
Or he's driving around. So either he's a DoorDash delivery or he's driving around stargazing with his
Yeah.
cell phone off, which I find, I don't know. All these theories that are coming out. He witnessed murder after it happened. Like he was there while during it was happening as he was delivering food. I don't know, but that is one. But with the whole stargazing, driving around, trying to capture something magnificent happening in the night as your phone is off, kind of doesn't jive.
Yeah.
Obviously, it sounds, you're making stuff up. So that's where I'm at with all that stuff. But so far, they haven't been able to bring anything solid. Oh, and then they're missing all the evidence. Yeah, prosecution has no evidence. Had
Well,
evidence, but now has evidence.
what's crazy, there's a couple of things that stand out. So we'll just start with the timeline, right? Part of the alibi is that Bryan Kohberger goes stargazing quite a bit. And he has also come out, or his team has come out and said that they're going to be able to prove with beyond a shadow of a doubt that the cell phone pings are not going to ping him back to that area. Now, it's my understanding based off of the evidence that they can already prove that he was. That's neither here nor there. The interesting thing about the DoorDash is that it was right around that 4 to 4:12 time frame, and they say the murders happened between 4 and 4:26. Now, what the theory is right now is that if it was Bryan Kohberger, he went in to go after Maddie Mogan, essentially, right? And then Xana Kernodle was getting her DoorDash and maybe ran into him, and then that's when Ethan got brought into it, right? Like her boyfriend. Um, it's totally hard to say. They did have defensive wounds and things like that, and I think that's an important thing to look at. But if you look at the timeline, that puts a lot of people at the scene. And if Bryan Kohberger was there, he went in, he was very efficient with his time and his speed, and then he had come back out, right? Which is absolute craziness. At the end of the day, how that went down. Now, for me, I had all of these theories, just like the internet sleuths that are out there. I was like, it was the guy that was with them to begin with that you see in the video, and then it was the other guy that was sitting at the food truck that ends up taking off. Obviously, I didn't know who Bryan Kohberger was, but that theory, when it came up and when the police actually did the press conference, I watched that live. I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. You know what I mean? But I will say, before I turn it over, his attorney, who's a public defender, is doing a phenomenal job casting doubt. But
Right.
I want to say this right now. So everybody that's listening to my stream right now, he will be found guilty. There's no way they're going to find him innocent. Just like the Nikolai Mew case, I thought he was going to be innocent. Bryan Kohberger, there's no way. He's been out in the media way too long. If they don't move that trial, he doesn't have a hope in hell. So that just is what it is. I do think that what we've seen so far points to him. But keep in mind, we've seen 15 pieces of evidence, and there's like 132 pieces that we need to go through. So that could tell a different story. So
Yeah, it's and didn't one of the roommates actually witness the man there?
Dylan, yep.
Okay, so how come they didn't call 911 then?
Yeah,
Like,
so
you know what I mean? Like the
crazy.
timeline, like if right? Because I was reading it, I was reading the article. I'm like, hey, am I reading this right? Maybe it's a mistake, or maybe I'm reading something that's like a hoax. So obviously, ask right. Um, if you're seeing someone in your home and you hear the dog or like even a scream, and there's like some stranger in your house, the first thing you're doing is 100% calling 911. Well, that's my first instinct.
Yeah.
I had somebody break in through my window, and I called 911 as I'm trying to beat him up. like, like you instantly go into like attack mode.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't keep going in and out of my room to check. No, I don't know. But I don't know.
You said something right there, Dal, that sets you apart from other people, right? Like when something like that happens, there's a fight or flight mode, right? It's alpha versus beta. Now, I don't want to offend anybody, right? So I won't go into that spiel. But when it comes to fight or flight, a lot of people either freeze up or they have that flight. The other piece to it that I always kind of consider is, you're in college, they partied there a lot. We saw some of the videos with the cops showing up. So it could have been something, until we hear her on the stand, it could have been something where she just thought it was a friend that came over, because she said it was dark, right? And and I'm just filling in the blanks. This is just purely my opinion. I don't know Dylan. I don't know, but I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that. And then I was like, well, I lived with roommates at some point, and there was a lot of random people coming in. I didn't think twice about it. And let's be honest. I was in Lethbridge, Alberta when I was going to college. There was some definitely sketchy dudes that were coming over, especially for my roommate, right? And like when they were walking out, I'm like, who's this dude? Like, I wouldn't let him in my house regularly. So could it be something like that, where at the end of the day, she was just so used to people coming in and out all the time that she didn't even think twice about it? And it's pretty late. It's 4 a.m. Who knows if she was drinking? We'll hear about all of that. Does she go and pass out? Because she doesn't call in until 12. That tells me she got a good solid 8 hours of sleep. Now, if it was fear, I don't think she would have slept. No. Just my theory. What do you think?
Like, I would have walked out 100%. I don't know. I would have. Like, I would have been that person or whatever. I'm the one who goes for the noise instead of running away from it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go check it out. Or like what's going on with the dog. But at the same time, yes, like I've lived with roommates too, and we always had parties. We were always doing like in and out, like people were coming in and out of our places all the time. But when you kind of hear like a scream or something that's a little unusual, but at the same time, they did order food, so it doesn't seem like maybe out of the norm, but it's a little bit alarming with the time frame because like if you keep going in and out and that person is still there, but you are like, hey, who are you, or
Well, he
what you
wasn't
doing
there very
here?
long though, in the grand
No.
scheme of things. Like I think they
Oh,
narrowed it
by the
down
way
to
that
12 minutes, which is
oh, okay.
crazy. Yeah.
It's just crazy that no one, I don't know. Like it's hard to put yourself in that situation because obviously you were not there, and it's hard to say like how I would act because I've never been in that situation. Like
Yeah.
I'm screaming, like you're fighting for your life as somebody's attacking you, and there's four, like, well, how many? Seven kids in the house, seven in total.
Yeah, well, I think there were six there that night. I think the two that
Six,
survived, and then
two, yeah,
the
two.
the four.
Okay,
Yeah. Um, Another thing that comes up, like Zane, his room's right underneath ours, right? And so when
oh,
he's playing Fortnite, he's screaming all the time. So I kind of get
yeah,
used to that, and I go back to all the parties and stuff. Like, did and we'll know if she takes a stand, right? And I don't know Idaho if they will allow you to not be on camera. Like in Wisconsin, they did, right? Like if you didn't want to be on camera, they would shut it out. But that's interesting, and you bring up a couple of good points. But I still fall back to there's fight and there's flight. And if you've ever been in that situation, like when I was in my apartments in Lethbridge, my landlord showed up at like 2 in the morning with the lights off, and I hadn't met him yet. And I tried to go through the door, like through the glass sliding door. I freaked him out. He ran away and then showed up in the
yeah,
morning and said, hey, he was mad at first, but he was like, yeah, I guess you didn't really know me. But like
yeah,
I hit that door until my fists were bleeding. Like, cause he just showed up, like I was just sitting on the couch and he was just there.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
you could tell he was kind of tired. And I just thought it was somebody trying to break in, man. And I was like, but I see a lot of people freeze up too, where it's just like, and you don't know what you're going to do until a situation. Now, if I saw
That's
somebody
the
getting
thing,
stabbed, would I freeze? I might, because I haven't seen that before, right? Where if somebody just
right?
shows up, I just go
Oh,
swinging.
yeah, I'd probably swing.
Yeah.
I'd probably swing for sure.
Well, I think that's probably family
Like or
genetics.
push, like just
Uh,
push and run, run for the phone 100%. Like find something, right? But it's just like, or the other thing, or they got attacked like while they were sleeping, like were they
yeah.
already sleeping by then? Because that's like, no offense, I think it's the most cowardly thing to do is do that when somebody is sleeping, but it's the easiest, unfortunately, because there's no fight and
Yeah.
you're surprised at the same time, and they're little. Those both all three of those girls so little.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it should have never happened. Is basically like
No, not at all.
it's senseless any way you look at it.
Yeah,
My thing with that is, you know, um, what the hell? Like
yeah,
what the hell, right? Somebody actually went in there and did this, but I think the two girls like Maddie and Casey might have been sleeping, but definitely I think Xana met him in the or in the hallway, and then Ethan came out to protect her. I think that's what happened. We won't know. Like there is a lot of speculation around that because they did release some of the stuff from the autopsy that they weren't supposed to release, and things. So there
right,
is a lot of rumors out there, and I call them rumors because even if the autopsy person says it, doesn't mean it actually happened that way. You know what I
right,
mean? Like that's one of those things that is like, that is still pretty much up for speculation. Um, so at the end of the day, that's kind of my look at it is, what's going on with that. But there's other things that kind of bothered me about it too. Is Bryan Kohberger being a criminal justice student, like does he, you know,
right.
yeah, like does he think? And I don't know, but is it one of those things where he thinks he can commit the perfect crime? What do you think?
Oh, you're smarter.
Yeah, I'm smarter than
I've been
everybody.
doing true crime, like watching true crime, Snapped, you name it, all of it. I have not yet figured out the perfect crime, and it's like what it would be like. One, I'm sorry, the cell phone. You leave the cell phone at home. That's already like no. And he has a new vehicle, so obviously there's GPS.
Yeah,
Why hasn't anybody looked into that?
yeah.
Like where he was, like driving around. So, but
You brought up a
like
good point,
I don't
though.
know.
Yeah.
Like why are they? I was thinking that today. I'm like, why are you not looking at the vehicle if you're wondering where that is? Sorry, my dog's legs don't work in the back.
No, don't worry. We like dogs. I got the crime fighting dogs right here. They're like, we want to be on camera tonight, Dad.
Right?
And
So funny.
yeah, so I spent a lot
Yeah.
of time with all my dogs too.
With the dogs.
So with
There's
the
throwing frisbee outside,
you
so
brought up the car, and I think that's a good point because when they first started looking for the car, they had the years wrong. They didn't even have his year in because I think it was 2011 to 2013 or 2013 to no, it was 2011 2013. Then they expanded it to 2015, and then I think 2016. So I think that's going to have a hard time holding up in court as well. Although it would be an honest mistake. And then the one picture that you have of the car, it's pretty blurry. So I don't know unless they
right.
found some DNA in there. I don't know. And then I think they're holding on to the knife sheath because that might have had a good sample of his DNA. I'm pretty sure that's where they got the DNA to sample to his dad. And I think that one's going to be really hard to explain for him. So I think there's
Right.
pieces of evidence it's gonna be smooth sailing. Things are gonna be good
Right?
for him. And then I think when the fan gets hit, oh, that's gonna be a rough day in court. And Tara's pretty good as a defense attorney, but keep in mind she's still a defense attorney for the state. And usually when
Yeah.
you're doing that, you're not the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the top gun. You know what I mean? So she's doing a
Right.
fantastic job, and I think the prosecution is kind of fumbling this a little bit. But
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I think it's looking pretty bad for
I,
Mr. Bryan Kohberger.
yeah. Oh, yeah. He's not because no offense. Like even if he, let's just say, like let's say the evidence would point somewhere else, and he's not it. They still have to prosecute someone. Like you can't just. This is a high profile case. Probably why they're not going to allow media in the courtrooms. Like it would get out of control, so out of control so quickly. Um, you cannot not be wrong. Like especially when you're denying, hey, we have no evidence. We're like we don't know where our stuff is all of a sudden. Like it magically disappears.
Is that your
But you had
mom?
stuff to prosecute him.
Was
I
that
know,
Auntie?
right?
Oh man,
No,
she's trying to. Who is that?
my mom.
Your mom?
They're
Hi, Auntie.
playing outside. Oh my goodness.
She's trying to
Gosh.
photobomb us.
Anyway,
That's okay. Tell her I
I
said hi.
know. I will. But yeah, I just like you have to, I don't know. I think unfortunately with this one you're in it. So you make it stick and or it's gonna be a nightmare
Well, let me
if
ask you
they win.
this. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. You
Oh no,
bring
no,
up a
go
good
ahead.
point. If it's not Bryan Kohberger,
Yep.
right? Who could it be? What are your thoughts? Do you think it is Bryan, or do you think that there's somebody else out there that we haven't got to?
Well, one, if he was a DoorDash delivery guy, it would have that. You would know that right from the hop. Like, because it'd ping on your phone. It's very easy. Like, obviously, if he had his phone, he would need his phone on if he was the delivery guy because you need to know where you're going for the address.
Yeah,
Right. And plus, you got to say delivered.
yeah.
So that theory's kind of out because you need to that. But say he was, then who is it? Obviously, you can't pin it on the white car because that's his white delivery car. Um, who's the guy? Was it the guy that was with them? Like, where was his alibi after he left that shack? Because I remember watching that on YouTube, the video of the surveillance video of them.
Yeah,
And but there was the one guy just standing there and just stood there and watched them the whole
yeah,
time.
yeah.
What about that guy? But it's unfortunate that when you're putting your attention all in one basket, you can't see nothing else.
You gotta be pretty
And
confident to do that.
you have to, yeah. Or it's unfortunately that you just want to prosecute someone just to prosecute because there's four students. It happened at school. They're you know young, everyone beautiful, had futures ahead of themselves. Like we have to do something because the families want it, the public wants it, the media wants it, social media is a huge thing. Like what's going on? They're already getting grilled that it was 6 weeks too long. Like what the heck are you guys doing? So you have to do something. You got to do something quick,
Yeah.
and doing it quick unfortunately can prosecute the wrong person. I'm not saying that he's not guilty, but I just wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe
What
I'm just
about
too naive for the law
your aunt
system.
is cracking, or your mom's
Oh,
cracking me up?
oh my goodness. Hey, mom. You
we
know I'm
already we
lying,
already
right?
saw you. You're good. She's good.
You know, live on YouTube.
Um, here it could. So I mean, realistically, it could have
Yeah,
been the DoorDash guy, except for the
right.
time that he's there. Right, it's probably not enough time, so that's going to exclude him. I also thought the neighbor could have had something to do with it because that was a little sketch when he did the whole video about talking about their
Yeah,
house and the parties, and like he was very well known about like at the very least this guy had a crush on these girls, and it's not hard to see, right? They're young, they're good looking girls going to college, whatever, and he's probably seeing them all party. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you, when I was watching the video, he came across a little creepy, and I was like,
right.
okay, for me, like that's the type of
Yeah,
person I don't want around my friends. And
yeah,
I really thought that he may have had something to do with it.
right.
Obviously, it didn't turn out that way because it ends up being Bryan Kohberger. Not that he's been found guilty yet, but I was like that. And then my only other theory was that it was somebody that just came into town and picked a random house, which is very unlikely because of the nature of the crime. But I'm like, those are other theories that I think the defense is going to have to explore at some point. And then with the alibi, because they really don't have to do anything except for create reasonable doubt. But you're going to want to come up with a story, right? You're going to want to have some sort of, it could have been this person to put that doubt in.
Yeah. Well, 100%. Like even when they're, well, I just don't know what the hassle is. Like hand over what you have. No offense, if this person is driving around, Brian's driving around, what street are you on? Where are you going? Did you drive by a gas station? Give them the information that you want because no offense, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about. But the more you're not telling people, you still sound guilty. Prosecution sounds like, hey, you might have got the wrong person because you don't want to hand over stuff. And and the thing is, like, if I was ever the parent of if that was ever my child, I would be like, I want answers now and I want it now. Like,
Yeah.
pissing around, pardon my language, but like, it sounds sketchy. Like, hand over what you guys have, read it, put your cases together and move on. But it almost like you want to play a game. Who has the bigger you know what and who
Mm-hmm.
has more. And it's frustrating when it gets like that because there's like people's lives at stake. Someone's freedom is at stake. And it's just, but at the same time, as bad as this sounds, it's something to talk about, right? So that generates stuff, right? That brings people to the table and want to always keep in like knowing about this case. I'm not saying it's entertainment, but people
True crime is entertainment though, because it happens for
it
real,
is.
and it's scary.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
talking to Mary earlier today, and we were talking about, if you're always afraid of the world, then you don't really get to experience it. But it's these types of things that happen that make people afraid, and that's why people don't go out. But I've got two questions for you. The first
Yeah.
thing is, you said, what did you say? Watch your mouth. So when has a Solberg ever watched their mouth? So let me start there. Right? Are you saying you don't cuss? I'd be
Uh,
surprised. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
just a
Let it
little bit.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
But a real
Uh,
question is, do you think that Bryan Kohberger takes a stand in his own defense?
no, I think that was just bad.
Okay.
Just a bad idea. I'm sorry. Like, as much as somebody preps you, especially in this type of situation, you say one wrong thing. That's it. Not even if you meant to, you cannot come back from it. Like, I wouldn't. I watched, what is it called? It's on A&E. Oh, Taking the Stand. And they burden themselves every time. No, like I've watched like very rarely that they're actually winning their cases, but it's also not for like murder of this high profile case. I would never.
Yeah.
You? Would you get up there?
Well, here's the thing that I think about with the whole on the stand thing. I don't know what I would do because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But what sticks out to me in the Nikolai Mew case, if you go back and listen to that the juror that came out, I can't remember what his name was. He basically said he didn't have an option but to take the stand because we wanted to hear his story. But because he took the stand, that's how we found him guilty. Now, it wasn't that that was a smoking gun, because they were really talking about, he could have retreated, even though there's a no duty to retreat in Wisconsin. But that stuck out to me because he was damned if he did. It was and damned if he didn't. But it was a lose-lose situation, because if Kohberger doesn't take the stand and explain what the hell happened, like if I'm a jury or a juror, that guy's he's guilty. I'm sorry, he's guilty.
Yeah.
Now, if he does take the stand, to your point, I mean, that's really risky, because they're going to keep him up there as long as they possibly can. And then they get redirect. So they're going to keep him up there, and then they're going to let the defense tell their story, and then they're going to redirect, and then they're going to come at everything that he had just said. So I don't know. I think, people get desperate and do desperate things in desperate times. He is a criminal justice major, so I think he's going to be really playing the percentages and the statistics, and he's going to know what is the smart thing to do, and I think that's what's going to tell us if he takes a stand or not.
Right. But even like him having that type of background almost makes it kind of cocky if he
Yeah,
gets up there.
that's a
Like,
good
don't
point.
do it. Like, I know what you know. I know you've gone to school for this stuff. So if I'm a juror, I'm not dumb. And not at like 12 other peers of mine, or how many jurors that have to be on murder. We're going to convince somebody who wants to believe you. We're going to convince them otherwise, because we're, you see past it, right? Like, not something like, oh my gosh, he went to school. That's so amazing. He knows that. But at the same time, it's very manipulative, very conniving, and very calculated.
Yeah.
So, but
I don't know.
I
I
would
think
want to
that's
see it though.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to see it.
So let me ask you this question, because I think this is an important question and it's come up as well. If he did do these crimes, do you think he's murdered other people before? Because he was very efficient. And let's be honest, I mean, I steal a pack of gum and I'm freaking out. Imagine stabbing your first person ever, killing them, and then just like, oh, cool, I'm going to
Oh,
kill the other three, like for whatever reason is in my head. I feel like if it is him, there's got to be other people, other places that he's done this. Because there's no way that he maintains composure throughout that. Or am I wrong?
I wouldn't say, like, say for instance he would go as far as stabbing someone, or even trying to go there. I think maybe, just hypothetically, like my opinion, say like he has a thrill of stalking. What can I get away with? You know, maybe I drive around at night looking at the stars, but maybe you're looking through people's windows when they're sleeping. Can you go up to people's doors and touch them? Like scoping the area. Like, if you're doing that at night, how often have you gone up to somebody's home and checked the door?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it just so for happens like you did notice these girls, you noticed their home. Maybe you've seen them before prior to that night. Like, it's all in the car. Like, it is a new car. You have that information. But he's done something like this before, just not to this length. He's testing the waters. So, and now, no offense, he's going to be like, say, for instance, Ted Bundy, right? He's so cool, collective, charming. He fits the part, like, he knows the background. No, he's going to get, away with it in his head, but he's not. Like, but he's done something like this. This creepy. It's creepy.
Well, and you actually brought up another good point. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, like these are people that he studied. I didn't think of the stalking situation quite as much. I still have a hard time making that leap, though, from going from stalking to murdering four people. Like, for me,
Oh,
even if you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, he didn't go out and murder four people the first night he started murdering. He murdered one,
no.
saw he could have got away with it, and he even said it was sloppy, right? So how do you like? How do you wake up in the morning like, these are the guys that I looked at, these are the people that I read about. Screw it, I'm gonna go do four. Like, and,
Right.
and I think he was startled by Xana. I really do. I don't think that I think the way that sequence is going to come out is that he was startled by her. And then that's what led to those two. But even Casey and Maddie, to do two in one, unless he was expecting that it was only going to be one person in there. But I mean, that develops
Yeah.
fast. And I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're in it, you're in it. There's no turning back. There's something like unless you get completely petrified of, people get scared and drop stuff and they leave a trail, unless you're in that mindset, this is what I'm doing and I'm gonna do it, then I don't know. I could never be in that mindset. But maybe that's not meant to do it, but it just the way that it happened and he liked it. So why not keep doing it? And obviously you have a knife in your hand, like you're stabbing people. So I just think it's so crazy. I just think it's so crazy that no one woke up. No one heard that. But honestly, it saved their lives, I guess. So
Inside the
who
mind of
even
a
looks,
killer.
right? Like if I was studying that stuff all day,
I mean, looking back,
I don't
when I
know.
went to college, that's probably something that I would have been good at, like being a detective or
Right?
whatever. But unfortunately, it doesn't pay. So, I mean, I would have never
Right.
done
Yeah.
it. Just too much stress, not enough pay. So, all
No,
those
exactly.
detectives and police that are out there, like, yeah, you work a hard job,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no
hand it to
doubt.
them.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong though. When I get pulled over, I don't like you. So, just is what it
I know.
is. I don't get pulled over often, but
It's so funny.
definitely a tough
I'm
job.
always calling 911. They
Yeah.
think I'm funny. One time I thought someone was shooting outside my apartment and there was fireworks. And they're
Uh,
like, you can go to bed now. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
oh, look, Coop Dog
But
said
yeah,
hi.
like, sorry, with the
Yeah.
going back to your question, to me, like, do you honestly, has there been any cases brought to the table of missing people that they think that might be connected to him?
No, I haven't seen
I say
that.
missing.
But they did say that the FBI was looking into Pennsylvania to see if any of those tie back to him. And what I think will happen is they'll let this trial go first. And if there is a connection and it can make their
Mhm.
trial stronger, they're going to wait to bring that in till the last minute because then you change the narrative, right? Like that's a
Oh,
strategy at the end of the
okay.
day. And then they'll hold on that as long as they possibly can. So the defense has to
Right.
re-strategize right before the trial because that could shoot a hole
Right.
in everything. So I think that's a really good prosecution tactic. I mean, we saw that in the Nikolai Mew case with some of the stuff that came up a little bit late. In totally different cases, and I get that, but just watch now. It is in Idaho versus Wisconsin. That's a big difference. And I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in this case because, to be quite honest, there was a lot of
Mhm.
eyes on it. Very much like the uh, uh, Delphi cases, right? There's a lot of emotion that goes into that, and I think that definitely the defense needs to get this case moved, and I don't think it's going to happen. And I think that if Bryan Kohberger ever gets out of jail, it's got to be on appeal, and it's going to be over a technicality.
Right.
So
Yeah, definitely. Well, how long he's been in jail? God, I can't even add right now.
about 2 years.
2022. That's
Yeah,
yeah, almost 2 years.
not
Yeah,
not quite, but
he's probably like locked up though. Like, what is that called? Oh
oh,
my
he's in
goodness.
holding for sure. Like he's not. He's
Yeah,
not in. He's not in
you get
prison
murdered.
where he's in Gen Pop or anything like that. So
Yeah,
I mean, he's living not great, but he's also under no threat or anything. So
right. Oh, that's good. Oh yeah, he would have a threat for sure. He'd be a target, absolutely,
yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I love watching lockup and stuff in the States.
yeah.
But
Well, it's not that bad. So I don't know about jail. I've never been to jail, but the states is not as scary as everybody thinks it is, especially in Canada. It's always the news, and anytime there's a political cycle, you start hearing all the bad
right.
stuff. So I've
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
my
don't
time
think
here.
that's good. No, I am not a big fan. My 20s, maybe a little bit, maybe once or twice downtown, but no, I'm good. But yeah, no, it's not something that he's probably enjoying it whatsoever. Like, obviously, if you did something, you want off on everything. Like, you don't want to be accused of what you did, nor do you want to admit it, nor do you want to spend the rest of your life in jail. And yeah, sorry, but so when are they trying to set the trial? Once everything is looked at, is that what they're planning? Because it hasn't. There's really been nothing new since for the past 9 days.
Yeah, they keep pushing it back. So,
Right.
at first he wanted a speedy trial, and then the judge was going to make that happen. But there's a lot of games going back and forth right now with evidence. There's a lot of games going back and forth with who said what and when was it said between the defense and the prosecution. Now, just keep in mind, they're basically fencing each other right now, right? And they're going back and forth to try to play the strategy game. This is all pretty typical in an American case. So it's hard to say when they're actually going to get it locked down, because I think there's going to be some more delays that are upcoming with other things that are happening. So we'll see. But based off of that, I want to get your closing thoughts on this one. So, the case overall in a nutshell, is he going to be found guilty? Is there any surprises you think are going to come up? And then I'll wrap us up after that.
Ooh, you know what? I think the prosecution is definitely not going to share anything that they don't really have to share or hide what they have to hide. Um, I think it's definitely going to be dragged out a little bit, which is unfortunate. I shouldn't say a little bit. It is going to get dragged out. It doesn't seem like there's much urgency to move forward because they want to break the other side, obviously, right? That's a tactic, like you said. But I do. I think he's guilty. Like, I'm sorry. One, it's the stargazing that has me. Like, you're going out driving around with your phone off. Like, I would keep my phone on. Like, who turns their phone off? No one turns their phone off.
That's
No
fair.
one. It's an alarm clock.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're looking at the stars. I think once I heard that, I'm like, you're guilty. Like, you need to come up with a better excuse
Yeah.
or better one.
Oh, oh, oh,
If you
oh.
don't got one,
Oh,
oh,
here comes little man.
oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's, yeah. Um, that's the crime
And how
fighting
about
dogs,
you?
though.
I was just,
Yeah, crime fighting dogs in action. They just let them walk right in, which
right.
is great. I should have shut the door, though. That's my bad. So a lot of activity today, but that's okay. No, I
Yeah.
think he'll be found guilty for sure. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I think that for Casey, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, this will be the right outcome for them. They lost their life
Yeah.
senselessly. They were college students that went out one night and they come home and this is what they're met with a few hours later.
Yeah.
They were just starting out life, right? They were young adults. This should have never have happened. I couldn't imagine what it feels like to be a part of their family right now. The hurt,
No.
the pain, the absolute, hole that they have in their hearts that they've got to feel because of this guy. And he's getting a lot of attention. Even us, we're giving him a lot of attention right now. But these are the four families that need to grieve. They need to get this case over. They need to make sure, that they do find him guilty if he is guilty. If he's not, I believe in the system, then he shouldn't be, but everything's pointing his way. So that's my take. I'll turn it back over to you in a second. For everybody on here, we're going to start moving from a live stream over to recorded podcasts just to make it a little bit easier on both Dallas and I so we don't have to be on time all the time. Hate to say it, I'm a very timely person, but the Oilers and the Canucks are playing right now, and I'm missing that. And
Oh,
I missed game one, and I want to make sure that the Oilers win. So, when I watch, they
oh,
typically
you're
do
cheering for
pretty
the
well.
Oilers?
I love the
It's
Oilers.
gonna be good hockey.
I love the
Good
Oilers.
hockey.
Dal, if you could get tickets, I'd fly in. I'd fly in next weekend. Just saying. Just saying.
See, well, we'll see. We can go downtown and watch it on the big screen.
Well, fair
So
enough. I
the
don't know
young
if I'd
kids.
fly in for that. I'd fly in, definitely go to Rogers. But that being
Yes.
said, definitely if you're here, you're watching this video,
Mhm.
hit that subscribe, hit that like. We're trying to grow our channels, and we're having a lot of fun with this. So if there's anything that you want to see, or if you've got any feedback, we love having feedback, both positive and negative, as long as it's helping our channels. We'd love to listen to that, and any ideas of cases that you want to talk about or hear about, definitely leave us a comment. So Dallas, I'm going to let you take it away, give your channel name, and we'll end it there.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us again on Friday. Once again, check out my channel, just another channel, True Crime Documentaries. I'm trying to post once a week, but have lots of shorts. So look at those and hopefully you like. But like Timmy said, definitely you'll love want your opinions and your suggestions. So that'd be good. And then thank you again.